In every age, the Jedi in fiction and in life have evolved, haven't they? Traditions shift one way or the other. Teachings expand, but there are truths so foundational, that's so sacred that they don't move. They live, certainly, they breathe, but they don't move from their foundational spots. And for us at Ashla, that is the sacred ethos. So today, Michael and I want to return to these ethos and share with you kind of the living heartbeat of our path. So I want to welcome everybody here today. Thank you so much. A special thanks to the Jedi Federation for inviting us to this. I would have shown up anyway, but you guys roped me into doing a show, and we needed to do a show because Michael's been goofing around this week. So it's kind of a win-win, and we're really happy to be here. So maybe, well, I am. I don't know. Are you
Agreed.
happy to be here,
I'm
Michael?
I'm pretty stoked to be here. This is awesome. I tell you what, it's awesome all the things you guys offer on your website and just you provide to your community. It's beautiful, and glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I love these gatherings. I really do. I've only been to one physical gathering, and I was only there for like a day and a half, but I loved it. It was so fun. It was really great to see everybody in the flesh and kind of hang out with people. Um, I was at the online gathering last year, kind of lurking around, and
Just real
that was
quick, does it
yeah.
not count when we came out? That was a little gathering.
That's no, it does. That does count.
You've been to two in person.
That does count. Those are back in the old KOA days. Anybody that's been around long enough knows. We used to do the Nights of Awakening. This was before Michael was born, I think. He's a young guy, but I'm showing your age, Ali. Um, but and I'm probably much older than Ali too, so she's a youngin too. But I want to welcome you guys to this special episode that we're doing. This is kind of our first. Well, it's certainly Michael's first kind of live show, so it'll be really fun to see how excited he is. Um, Ali and I and some others used to do it live all the time back in the day. But um, so, anyways, I love how we all come together like this because we all show up as individuals, but we're not just here as individuals, and we're not just practitioners of different lineages of the Jedi way, and but we're here as a global community. There's literally people here from all over the world, which is awesome. This month marks, I think, like my 23rd year in the community. Um, and although it was kind of global back then, as best we could do, it's just so cool to see how it's evolved over all this time. So, and we're really united by a shared devotion to the Force, the living light, as we call it sometimes. And this is just more than a meeting. It's a chance for us to stand together and pause and kind of hang out together, and but also look inward at who we truly are and who we're becoming together, not just as individuals, but together. So today you get to hang out with me for a minute, and while I return back to the heart and soul of my philosophy, the Ashla philosophy, with my apprentice Michael, and hopefully you guys learn something from it or get something out of it anyway. So, but these ethos are the foundation beneath every teaching, every interpretation, every method, really everything we do. When you say, Michael?
I would say so. This is definitely the bread and butter of everything that every episode we do, every page in your book. I mean, it is the heart of our philosophy.
It is. And these ethos are not just abstract concepts or pretty poetic words on a page, and they are sometimes. And they're not just philosophical preferences or optional virtues for us. These are spiritual obligations that we take very seriously. So for us in our path, they are almost like the pillars that govern how we walk and how we serve, how we speak, how we make decisions, how we show up in a world that really desperately needs more grounded, heart-centered leadership. So these are the things that we not only talk about, we try to model out in the world. But they're also bridges, Michael.
Your favorite thing?
They're my favorite thing. Bridges over walls, right?
Yep.
Uh, there's an axiom of light I want to share with you. Approach understanding with light and darkness will never gain purchase. And these ethos really help us understand what that living light is. They help illuminate our path so that our hearts don't wander too far. They help protect our inner world from confusion and fog. They align us with our purpose, especially when the world around us is growing super loud and chaotic and crazy, like it tends to do almost daily, it seems these days. So before we step into these ethos, I want to anchor this teaching today within the Way of Ashla, because again, these ethos are not standalone virtues for us. They are expressions of that deeper moral law, if you will, that flow through us. The axioms of light help us stay aligned. Our 12 agreements help keep our vision sharp to these things, because we really believe that that purpose without moral clarity becomes misdirection, right?
Yeah. Well, so often life comes up on us and it's easy to get derailed from the mission we are leading. We have so much we want to accomplish in life. We also have so many other obligations and things we care about. And it's easy to lose alignment with those things, or at least to fall out of alignment temporarily.
Which is okay. I fall out of alignment all the time, and I wrote most of this stuff, right? It's okay
Yeah.
to do that because we're human beings, and that's fine. And it's actually pretty useful for that to happen to us. It gives us a way back again and again to come back to the path. And that's why I love events like this, because I get to see other people really kind of aligning with the same things that I'm trying to do out in the world in ways that I didn't think of, it just fills that vessel even more, which I love. It helps us understand that we're not alone, right? We may have different ways that we approach the force. We may have different ways that we approach our codes. We may have these tiny little differences, but if you look deeper and if you come to these hangouts, you see that there are a lot more there's tons of bridges and very few walls.
Well, I think an important part about the ethos as well, just tying into what you're saying here, is I mean, this is, with it being the heartbeat of our philosophy, it's the heartbeat of the soul. It is something we're all naturally inclined towards. It's just we're all conditioned by different experiences, beliefs, and situations that sort of give us our own unique perspective and individuality.
Yeah, it's true. So I have a few more axioms that I want to just kind of lay out there before we move on. And one of them is, one who walks the path of light does so with acceptance and contentment, free of conflict. This axiom helps us remind us in the perspective of the ethos, that the ethos help bring inner peace, right? Bring us peace on the inside, center, stillness, no matter what's happening in the world around us, because that's really the most important thing. We got to make sure that we can find peace no matter what's happening. And sometimes it's tough because there is a lot of stuff happening, especially if you break it down to the individual person's level, depending on where they live, depending on where they're at, depending on what's going on, their family environments, things like this. It can be tough to find that peace. But if we stop looking for that peace around us, which of course are things that we can't control, and we focus inside, that's where we really have the most power, not only in the moment, but inside, right? That's where we have the most chance to change things for ourselves that helps us deal with the things that are happening around us. Another one is, the master can continue to give indefinitely, for his or her wealth is their wisdom. This helps us understand the ethos as a renewable source of power. Because when you live from love and truth and integrity, connection and respect for life, you don't burn out as easily. We do burn out, but not as easily, because we have this inner well that we can draw from, right? You still
Well,
there
it's
with me,
through
buddy?
being it's it's being able to be an example out in the world. True change, true influence is not what we tell people. It's not in the declarations we make, but in the actions we take. It's
Yeah,
being an example in the world.
yeah, it is. It is because I mean, what better lesson than to see other people doing things? This room is filled with a lot of people. Um, Many of them I've met and I've known for years that do provide that good lesson. They show up, they're present, they do the same things consistently. They have their flaws like we all do, but they show up, and that's the biggest part, right? Presence over
Yeah.
perfection every time, every time. So let's move into the ethos themselves. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So first, of course, is love. And this is the ethos of sacred regard. And love stands as the first ethos because it is the foundation upon which all of our conscious action is built. All of our intentions. If we tune our heart to try and think love, try to be love, try to honor love, then lots of things starts to fall into place for us. Um,
We talk about vibration often in the healing communities and how vibration is what we attract into our lives. Love is the highest vibration, and the more we can attune to it, the more that life can flow to us, the more abundance can flow to us. To
yeah,
act in a manner of love is the highest act we could give, not just others but ourselves. Because when we fall to the lower vibrations, the lower emotions, it can be consuming. It can be convoluted as far as the actions we need to take are moving forward to becoming our best selves.
yeah. It's the act of protecting the dignity of another person before correction, right?
Yes.
Right? It's
Yeah.
but that self-love is more important. It's a more important thing to focus on first because then that radiates. Like we talk about all the time, all things, and you're talking about vibration. All things radiate out from us. So the better we can love ourselves, the better we can respect ourselves. That will touch everybody and even beyond that without you even knowing it. You guys have more power in this world than you realize sometimes.
Well, and I think self love is truly the first step in this ethos because many people don't realize how hard self love is to master. We are
It
our
is.
worst critics, we are our worst enemies from time to time. And to create a symbiotic relationship with that unconscious mind we have is so much more than just saying, looking in the mirror and saying, I love you every day. It's conscious acts for your betterment. It's constant choices made, not just for who you are in this moment, but for your future self, for your future endeavors.
It's resting when you need to rest. It's saying no sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It's taking care of things at home. And you know, Ross did a class today about finances today. Um, and that's a really important aspect of our modern life. And if we don't have that stuff at least building upon or trying to, make that a priority in our lives, it's very hard for us to extend that out into the world, right?
Well,
And
again, be the example, right?
yeah, and as powerful as love is as an ethos, it's often misunderstood in the way that we try to teach it. It is because we really live in a world that sometimes treats love as just a sentiment or a preference or just some fleeting emotional state. But it's not. It's not just a feeling. It is a discipline, a practice. Would you say?
I'd say so. I heard a quote a couple years ago that has just resonated with me for so long now, and that is love is a choice, not a feeling. And I think
Yeah.
many people get lost in that. And when it comes to it being a choice, it means not just loving your family and your neighbor, but even those you would wish not to love. It is to feel compassion for everyone. I mean, there is discernment as far as how much you let people into your life or you tolerate behavior. But through love, can we see people for who they truly are? Again, we are all the same essence, just conditioned by different beliefs and expectations and experiences and
Right.
survival strategies, most importantly.
And outside pressures, and depends on where we were born and how we were born, and all these things go into it. But at some point, we have to reclaim our power. Love is a discipline, and this connects it to the ethos of connection and respect for life, because it's a discipline that we build through practice, right? Of honoring the light in all beings, not just the ones who are easy to love, not just the ones who think like us or agree with us, and certainly not the ones that just treat us well.
Well, and I think you brought a little piece of gold you hidden with what you were saying right there, and that is about how it gives us our power. Because when we have ill will, negative emotions, when we have anything but love towards anyone, we are relinquishing our power to them. We are giving them control over our own dominion because we are allowing them to impact our own lives. And that's such a key part of this ethos is through love, through compassion and understanding, we're able to release the weight of contentment, of resentment.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean we allow people to hurt us. It doesn't mean that we allow people to use us. It doesn't mean that we allow people to do things to us.
Right. Well, that's the importance of boundaries, right? With boundaries,
yeah.
it's not to tell people how they need to treat us. It's to show us the place people hold in our where they should stand in our lives.
That's right. That's right. We can love without people letting people in. It's an act of the heart, right? And I know that sounds really I know it sounds easy to say. Right? I get it. I get it. But it's been my experience that love most often becomes most powerful when it's difficult, when it's hard to do that, right? It deepens it, though, when things around us, or we're dealing with difficult people. We do shows all the time about dealing with difficult family members or difficult partners or difficult coworkers or whatever. It doesn't matter the type of relationship. Love tends to deepen within us if we can show it and be it when it's difficult, to really look at another person. And if you have boundaries, then please have boundaries, but to even look at them and acknowledge that they too still have a divine spark in them, that they too are on a path of growth that they must follow. And maybe they're taking the hard way around. Sometimes we do, right? But it's to acknowledge that divine spark within them, even when their behavior hides it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
one thing that's really imperative too is, I mean, as long as it's not someone being outwardly, truly disrespectful, if someone's rubbing us the wrong way, that is one of the greatest opportunities we can encounter, because that's when we start to see the parts of ourselves that aren't healed. We start to see the parts of ourselves that need attention that we haven't been paying attention to. And in those moments when we struggle to put ourselves in someone's shoes, there's often something about ourselves we're struggling to see as well. And so much can be gained from those moments.
Yeah. Love is hard for lots of other reasons already, but one of the hardest reasons is because it requires us to be vulnerable, because it really asks us to show up with an open heart, especially in those moments where closing off and kind of putting on that armor and building those walls would be easier, be safer, really. Love requires courage, right? Because it stands, but it requires courage because sometimes it's a fight. It helps us stand our ground against cruelty and despair. But it requires compassion because it recognizes that suffering, even when it's disguised as hostility, just because someone's being hostile doesn't mean they're not hurting, right? And they generally are, wouldn't you say? I mean, probably more.
Oh yeah.
Not.
Well, I mean, it's like, what is the root of most people's suffering? It's that need for control. It's that attachment to outcome. And we can't always put ourselves in other people's shoes, but usually there's they're suffering more than we are in the end.
Sometimes,
And that
yeah.
compassion that can come for that can be truly helpful.
We show compassion despite the pain we have. That's what we're called to do on this path. Every single person that takes a vow of knighthood, Ali said it earlier. We put our lives above. We put other people's lives in front of our own. That's what we promise to do. That's what we take an oath to do. No matter what flavor or tradition of Jedi you are, when you take that oath, that's what we're doing, in one way or the other. And love is hard because it requires our presence. It's never asking for our perfection, to show up perfect without pain, without trauma, without any of that stuff. It just requires us to be present and open and as vulnerable as we can, while still maintaining those healthy boundaries with people who don't deserve to be within that kind of that bubble, right?
Yeah.
But if we don't show up, we can never honor another person's light. Can never fully be present with our own either. If we only show up when it's convenient or when it's easy.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easy to fall into that sphere. I've been doing a lot of contemplating on this recently about how one of the most dangerous things we can encounter is comfort and complacency. And we are unconsciously drawn to the path of least resistance in comfort. And showing up every day is a conscious choice, because there are days that won't be easy. There are days where we will want to not bring our best selves to the table or let our feelings and emotions override our logic. And it's being able to stand at the gate of our integrity that allows us to show up in the world with dignity and honor, especially as Jedi.
Yeah. In Ashla, we teach that the antidote to fear is love. It's also the antidote to domination. But it's also the antidote to those quiet, corrosive beliefs that we are separate from one another, that we don't experience the same kind of pain, that we're all alone and isolated in what we're dealing with. I promise you, you're not. You may not be able to find people or see people immediately in front of you, but trust me when I say this. There are lots of people that suffer the way we do, the way you are. And opening ourselves up and being a little vulnerable, right? Little by little. We like to say step by step, right? Let it unfold.
Yeah.
Little by little, practice, practice, practice. But love is a practice. It becomes a discipline. And that doesn't mean, I know the kind of, when we think of discipline, we say, oh, that's a very cold, hard practice. And, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying get rid of emotions, because if you're a human being, which I think we all are, pretty sure, we have emotions, and those are important to our being. They are a part of us. They are messengers to things that we need to pay attention to sometimes. But there are also ways we express love and hate and anger and joy, the whole gamut of emotions that feel like a plague upon us sometimes, but they're all very necessary, and they're all teachers if we let them be. So, but love helps us see some of the shadows of these things. Whenever there's kind of a distortion to our life and our path, look at it with love. Every corruption of power is probably a corruption of love. Every misuse of strength is probably a corruption of love.
Yeah.
And I don't,
Man, that's good. That's gold right there.
well, I wanted to say that, all these things could be traced back to maybe us abandoning love, but I don't think love ever abandons us. It just gets twisted.
Yeah.
It just gets twisted. And a lot of times it gets twisted, not even of our own doing. Most of these things that happen to us not because we begged for it or asked for it or even deserved it, but it did happen. It did happen. And this isn't a thing to compare. Oh, my pain is greater than yours. So, we don't compare around here. We don't do that. We don't shame and we don't blame, because none of those things are a path to healing.
Well
But
said.
a person who practiced deep love, the kind of love we're talking about, is very difficult to intimidate after a time of practice. They're very difficult to manipulate. They're very difficult to corrupt because at the center of their being, they have this understanding, right?
Yeah. Well, it's at the core when you're able to see people as they are. You're no longer blocked by what's the word I'm looking for? Indecision's what's coming to mind, but that is not the word I want. But we're not blinded by what we're trying to project on others. Instead, we see them as they are for who they are. One of the greatest strengths we can cultivate in life is to see people for who they actually are. Because when we have a relationship with anyone, we have a relationship with two people, who they are and who they are in our minds. And with love, with compassion, with understanding, we're able to bridge that gap as much as possible, which does make us strong. It makes us very difficult to manipulate or corrupt because we stand strong in our own beliefs and our own understandings of others.
Yeah. This kind of love that's rooted in the living light. It's not a fragile thing. It's difficult to coerce. It's difficult. You can't be bought. It's difficult to be shaken from it. And it stands firm mainly because it's not dependent on anything external. This is a you decision. This is a you choice. This is a you practice, right? And the point of that is to strengthen it here so that the stuff outside, which waxes and wanes, right? It just always kind of peaks and valleys all the time. Doesn't depend on those things. Once we take power over how we love, then the other things, yeah, they might come at us, but if we do it right, if we do it honestly, then it's very difficult to shake you from that once you have that set. When you look at love as a discipline, you become ungoverned by fear. You know, so again, it's easy to love when everything's good and everything's at peace. It's easy to love when everything is calm. I know this from my own life. It gets even when the pressure gets turned up on me, I kind of go, oh, I gotta dig in. I gotta step up because it is easy.
You know,
But the true measure of this ethos is unfortunately most clear in conflict or when discomfort or when our hearts want to shut down and kind of just go, nope, not dealing with that.
you know,
But even when that happens, never fear, because when those things happen in those moments, love becomes that doorway back into our humanity, back into our light.
love is the most powerful thing in the world.
I think so. Since we have extra time, let's open it up to the room. What do you guys think about love? How do you apply it to your practice? I caught them sleeping. They're all sleeping right now. Look at them.
Busted.
Well, I agree with that. Love is the most powerful thing.
How do you apply it to your life? How does it bring you back when things are real crappy around you?
When it gets hard, but
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, it's just something I kind of do. I just maintain that attitude of love, I guess.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really the point of all these ethos, is for us to internalize them so much that they become a part of our being, where we are walking love, we are walking truth, we are walking integrity, and so on and so forth. So that's perfect.
And showing up, it's
Showing
important
up,
too.
showing
I've
up.
done that. I've done that so many times. A good friend of mine is hurting, and I had nothing to help them with, but I just sat there with them. That
You
kind
know,
of thing. That's really important.
That's
That's
beautiful.
just really walking in love. Like I don't know what to do, but I'm here for you still.
Right? No judgment, just sitting in the mud with them, as Michael says. Just sit
you
in the
know,
mud.
and there's nothing more powerful you can do than that. Most people, when they're going through something, they're not looking for a fix. They're not looking for advice. They just want someone who can sit in that mud with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not
And
alone, I guess.
Yeah,
Hello, Dan. I see you
exactly.
waving there, Dan.
Yeah, I was looking at actually what Michael just said about sitting in the mud. I was going to say love I find is an anchor as well. It's
Mm,
not in a bad way, but in it can it could be that point that with somebody else it helps you anchor yourself. That you can be their anchor in time of need as well.
Yeah.
there's a and that's perfect. There's an axiom of light that we have that goes something like we heal ourselves by healing others, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Because sometimes we need to sit in the mud too, but we don't have maybe not have somebody. So if we can sit in the mud with them, we're sitting in the mud together.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Anyone else? All righty. So the next ethos is truth. Michael, why is truth one of our ethos? I'm putting him on the spot. Look at this. Watch.
Truth is one of our ethos because it's one of the most important things that we can have in our lives. And this isn't just truth when we have feelings, when we are going through things, or when we need to stand up. It is being able to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest, one of Justin's favorite lines is the greatest lie we ever tell is the lies we tell ourselves. And so often we go through lives with these lies we tell ourselves that we never realized were a story until we start doing the work. We start doing shadow work and looking at the unconscious motivations that operate us. Truth is the thing that removes the fog, that helps us see things clearly. And with truth, truth sets you free, right? Especially in
Mhm.
our relationships. If we can be honest about our feelings, if we can be honest about our opinions. I mean, discernment, but it allows us to live a life of integrity and honor.
Whether we want it to illuminate our lives or not,
You
sometimes
know,
truth sucks.
yeah,
Sometimes it does. But if love is the heart of our path, then truth would be the spine, I would say. Because it's that structure that holds everything kind of upright, and it kind of helps us see not just the good things, but also the shadow, which is also important. It is that force that keeps our inner world from collapsing under the weight of illusion.
yeah. Well,
And
we
and
spend most of our lives in illusion, right?
we
Until we
do.
start walking the path.
We do. And then once you go and then you go, man, once you go there, you can't, once you can't go back, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's
Makes me
some
think of that analogy about the flashlight in a dark room. Once you uncover the monsters in the closet, you can't put them away.
it would have been better not to see sometimes, it's true. Uh, but this truth we're talking about is not just simple honesty, which is important too, I believe, right? Truth is alignment. It's the alignment between our thoughts, our speech, our actions, and our intentions. It's about being forthright with the shadows and the light, the good things and the bad things, because these shadows are still a part of who we are. They're not who we are, but they are a part of us. And this is
Yeah.
once we see, we have to deal with it. It doesn't matter where these shadows came from. It doesn't matter who caused them. Again, we don't talk about, when we talk about forgiveness, we talk about forgiveness a lot on the show. And it's not forgiveness is not a forgetting. Forgiveness is not a free pass for what someone did to us. It's a facing of these shadows, because the people who hurt us aren't going to help us get sorted out most often. We have to do that ourselves, right? We
Yeah.
talk about radical responsibility and radical accountability all the time. And unfortunately, that is the way things are.
Well, and it's a matter of when it comes to the shadow, when it comes to these things that we are learning to be honest about with ourselves, it's not about a removal of the things that we have hidden away, but instead an integration. It is
Integration.
being able to take these parts of ourselves and bring them to the surface so that they can assist us. You know, one of the things that I struggled with the most when I started this journey was there was this ideal version of myself I wanted to become. And I thought if I integrated all these parts, I took them all together, I would be able to become that masculine, hyper independent man. Like I was delusional at the beginning of this. And I realized this ideal of who I thought I could become was not in alignment with who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I am a gentle man. And it doesn't mean that I cannot stand my ground. It does not mean that I cannot be assertive when necessary. But that is who I am. And that is the strength that allows me to bring my talents to the world, to bring my strengths to the world. And that I need to integrate these parts of the shadow around who I am and not a disillusionment of who I think I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, you may be a gentle man, and you are, but there are very few people on this earth who I want walking through hell with me, right? Don't mistake that gentleness for weakness, because it's not.
Yeah.
But you're right. Truth requires the death of those delusions. It demands that we release these stories that made us feel good, but they keep us blind, right? It really demands that we confront and transform and let go of these illusions that are built by the ego or built by outside influences, things that we built for comfort or survival or protection or control.
You know,
Probably
that was the word I was
them.
thinking.
Yeah. And truth requires us to tame that ego, to integrate it, to get it in line with the rest of us. Because the ego is the master of misdirection. It will justify it, it will inflate, and it will disguise, and it will literally bend your perspective and your reality to preserve the narrative that it prefers. And it may not be it may not be preferring that for a bad reason, but it still has a narrative that it prefers, right?
You know,
And
well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is the key of shadow work, right? The shadow is the ego. And it's not a matter of killing your ego or destroying your ego or transcending your ego. It is integration. Again, it is getting it in alignment with you. That was the perfect way to say it because that's what you're doing. There's no ego death that you're searching for in life, but instead learning to have your ego work alongside you, where it's not the one controlling the show from the background.
Yeah. We have to surrender in this moment, in this process. We have to surrender to the lies that we tell ourselves. We have, and we often tell these lies to ourselves, maybe not because we want to avoid change, but because change might be scarier. It's safer to just kind of keep things as they are, even though we may suffer for it. But better the suffering than the scary stuff you don't, right? Even though beyond that shadow is paradise, perhaps. Maybe not perfect paradise, but a paradise you can be present in, right?
Well, and I think when it comes to paradise, I mean, it's an important part of the truth. Sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead. I just didn't hear you.
I was just going to say that we often attach ourselves to this idea of what paradise is like, and that's not aligned with the Force. The Force itself is ebb and flow, ups and downs. It is living in harmony with all things.
Mhm.
And not defining it as good or bad, but being able to be present in whatever stage the Force is moving through. We attach ourselves to these fixed ideals and dreams of what life could be, but it's all about taking what is in life. I love the comment: "Paradise is what is where you create it," and it's the truth.
Mhm.
Paradise is about making the most of the world you live in now. It is not about trying to define something you are reaching for, because that is ego. That is nothing but an illusion you are chasing.
Connection is hell, disconnection, or connection is heaven and disconnection is hell, right? And we do these things. We do these things right now, in the moment. But there has to be a death of these lies, or at least surrendering them. So, because like you said, without the truth, I don't believe the Force can flow cleanly through us, because it has to dodge and dip and duck and dive up around all these little things that we've put in front of it. Right? Because as you said, the truth is the Force ebbs and flows. It's not always going to be this or this or this or this or this. It's going to have peaks and valleys too. That's what life is. And when we live in contradiction to that idea, to that understanding, our intuition becomes clouded. Our actions lose their clarity. We lose discernment. Our purpose could even be fragmented, right? But truth
Yeah.
helps purify those channels. It sharpens our perception. It restores that discernment that we may have lost or have been confused. But here's another but. Dang it. Truth demands accountability. Both inside and out. It just does. It just does. And that inner accountability asks us, what part did I play here? And we did a show about harvesting, right?
Yeah.
And how delicious was that humble pie?
Man, it definitely had me reflect because it's the truth. I spent most of my life before I got into the healing scene, like I thought I was, I'm not going to say perfect because I knew I wasn't perfect, but I was very happy with who I was. Little did I realize all the things I was running for, all the things I was compensating for. And, we, as you were talking about accountability, inner and outer, the importance of inner accountability. Our souls know how aligned we are, how much we're living in truth. And there is a debt, a silent debt that has accumulated. And the more that debt accumulates, the lower our self-worth drops, our self-trust, and in turn, the change we're able to bring into the world, the action we're able to take.
Yeah.
I was constantly hindered. I had all these aspirations, and a lot of them were a little too advantageous, I'll be honest. But the biggest thing holding me back was this emotional debt of realizing that to start working on developing these skills, I would need to start from level 1, right? And
it's important for all of us to go back to 101 all the time. Yeah. Whether you're a master or a beginner. The master at some point just becomes a beginner again. You know how I always tell you that we don't compare you and I like this, but like this. Because I'm starting over again. Every time I take on a student, I start over from the very beginning again. I'm just kind of orientating this way while the student goes this way. But we're still level. We're still at this line together. Right.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to all to go back to 101.
Yeah, we even just got a comment in the chat saying always be willing to be a Padawan, which is
That's right.
What's your favorite axiom?
The student is the best teacher.
Yeah.
Because they are. But
and then when we talk about like the levels of knighthood, I mean, what's the last level?
Last level. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah. It's going back to being a Padawan. It's being able to, yeah.
You're just a Padawan again at this level instead of this one. But I promise you, if you're curious and if you're open, which by that point you should be really open and curious, right? But if not, it's okay because we can always start again. That's the great thing about it. We can always start again. This is not a race where we start at the same starting line and end at the same finish line. It's not that kind of race. You're only racing yourself. And if you happen to stumble, it's okay. Get up. Just start again, right?
No shame.
No. Well, it's actually important. It's actually part of it.
Well, it's even before I became your apprentice, when we knew each other for years before, and we would talk philosophy and all these things, but I was so rigid in my understanding of the world. I grew up Christian. I held true to my values there, and there was so much in life I was too afraid to question due to my rigid beliefs. And it wasn't until life cracked me open like an egg was I like, I need to reevaluate life through the eyes of a child, is the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to be so much more open to understanding and wisdom and teaching, which is now something I'm going to practice the rest of my life.
I hope so.
Never be afraid to question my own understanding.
No. Everything we say should be questioned. Everything we say to this in this episode should be questioned. Everything we do should be questioned. We should take those inventories of our lives and our path and our beliefs and all the things about it and see what still serves us. Because we grow. Because we're not the same person we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. Yep. Some of us grow a little slower, which is fine. Some of us grow really quickly. That's okay too. But when we knew each other before you became my apprentice, you didn't even know I was a teacher. I never told you I was a teacher.
No,
Just hanging
we
out.
just had great conversations. Yeah.
Right, right. I didn't become a teacher until you asked for one. And that's kind of how teachers and mentors and masters really should, and this is my opinion. I don't give those out very often, Michael, my opinions, but I think that seems like that's the best way to do it. Not to go out and seek students, let students find you through alignment, through that flow, through that synchronicity, right?
Yeah.
So truth is not gentle, but it is deeply, deeply healing, even though it's going to hurt probably a lot at points. But it will remove the fog. It will clear your path. The best thing about truth is that it reveals who you have been and who you are capable of becoming. That, for me, is the most powerful thing about truth. And it reveals everything you've been avoiding, while also giving you an understanding, an idea of what's possible. It turns that void into a field of potentiality. It gives you that very clarity that you fear sometimes. But it's the clarity you need. The very truth that you resist is a truth that sets your life back into alignment.
Yeah.
So back to the room. Anybody want to talk about truth? You have any comments about truth? How it fits into your path?
Are we doing this audible, or are we just texting to the group?
That's fine too.
Oh, audible. Yeah.
Oh, Michael has betrayed me. He was supposed to be watching the chat. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
no, he caught
I'm-
he caught a number of things I put in there. He caught a number of things.
Either way, either way.
Truth. It's a funny thing because the reason why a lot of people know I prefer to go with the truth, even though sometimes I have to blow up my own spot, or
Mhm.
I have to do that because I find that tracking lies takes too much effort.
Oh, it's exhausting.
You deceive somebody, you play up a deception, and then you have to come up with a deception that covered that deception. And if you forget about this deception, now you look like a liar. Nobody's going to trust you. It's just,
Right.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So I've told people, you know what? I'm not a very good liar. And so I'd rather just tell you the truth, and either you accept it, that that's my position, that's my truth, and that's all I have to give you, nothing more and nothing less.
Because there's always that one guy, that really smart guy or gal that comes in and blows it all up anyway. You know?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so funny you say that, because in this past 2 weeks, I don't normally go on TikTok, but I was on there. Something led to it from Facebook or something, and it was a channel that these guys were discussing flat Earth versus round Earth. And I found this, and it was comical. I'm listening, going, "What, are you kidding me? Seriously, guys?" But I'm listening. And the one thing I found very, very interesting about what they were doing was, it wasn't a bunch of people on there going, "No, the world is flat." Nah, 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 nah. It's not this. What they were doing was backing everything they had to say up with at least mathematical facts and research. And I mean, I sat there feeling like the dumbest person in the room. I think I'm a pretty smart guy, but I was like, wow, these guys are just crazy smart. And so I entered into the room to put my 2 cents in.
Mhm.
And I said, first, let me say that you guys are amazing, because what these facts and figures and tests and mathematics and calculations and things you're doing to prove this is amazing. I'm a person who believes the world is round, yes, but I'm listening to the people that are talking about they truly believe that the world is flat, and I respect the fact that it isn't. Well, that's what I believe, and that's it. They actually bring some facts to the table. So I thought that was pretty cool. They're giving their truth. So that was an amazing experience to see these people debating with each other. And at the same time, a lot of them were very respectful back and forth. They're like, look, I don't have a problem with you. I just don't agree with your point of view. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So truth, right? There you go. A whole room full of people who would love to just jump on each other and call each other all kinds of crazy names, which sometimes they do. But many of them I have more respect for when they go, look, here's what I see, and this is how I have my facts and figures and supporting arguments. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. So I think that's along the lines of what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Truth can be a very slippery thing, especially when people are very intelligent, they're very smart, they're very savvy, they're very what's the word I'm looking for, Michael? When they have a very open and honest demeanor and things. That's why I always say, listen, question everything I say, because maybe I'm not right. Maybe I'm off the mark a little bit, and I'm happy to course correct. Because really, if I'm looking to be an embodiment of truth, wherever I go, wherever I am, then I must be willing to be course corrected too. So, you know, like with Michael over the last year and a half, it's like, listen, I'm teaching you a lot of stuff, but don't just take it from me. Explore, take what I say and apply it to life, apply it to your life, apply it to these things, and see if it holds true. If it doesn't, then come back and we'll course correct. So
Yep.
It's
Well, I
more
think
often
another
than people.
important point.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
Just
I
that. I was just going to add to what you were saying. And when it comes to truth, I mean, we all live in separate realities, as crazy as that sounds. But for instance, the round earther and the flat earther, both of their realities are very different. One
Mhm.
truly sees the world as flat, one sees the world as round. And it's being able to have that respect for one another to understand that you may never end up bridging your realities, but to have those conversations. Conversation is one of the most important things when it comes to true, genuine connection. And
Mhm.
when we have truth, truth is not always universal, which I find fascinating because we all operate under different schemas of how the world works.
Well, you know what's funny is a lot of people. So bringing it back to the Jedi thing, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people, when they hear that I participate in the Jedi community, that I consider myself a Jedi, and and it's like coming out of the closet, right?
Right?
I'm at a huge martial arts event, and I'm dressed as a Jedi. They asked me to come dressed as a Jedi, so I
Mhm.
did it. And ever after that, they go, "Hey, have you ever heard of Ross Greenberg?" They're like, "No, no. Remember the Jedi guy?" They go, "The Jedi guy? Oh yeah, yeah, that guy." So it became a thing, but everybody knows that that's where I'm at, and
Right.
it was pretty good because it was like being able to come out of that closet and say, "Yes, I'm a Jedi." Yeah, like my father before me. but 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 what was cool about that is I try to explain to people. They go like, what got you there? And I said, well, look, everybody comes to Jedi for a different reason, but like you're now relating, staying on topic, the truth part. If in the Jedi path, they're saying things that are true, you shouldn't let your emotions overtake you. You should find peace. This kind of thing. This is just everything in there is just telling a truth. And if you could bring yourself to follow those truths, you're not living a bad life. It's not like it says go out and murder everybody, blah blah blah. That's when you're talking about the truth. You have to first be able to see the truth, recognize the truth, and like you said, then there's the accountability of living up to that. I've had people say things to me that are true. Um, I hate the fact that I don't want a reputation of being a chatterbox, but I do talk. And mostly when I talk a lot, it's because that's my way of dealing with being nervous.
Mhm.
Right? It comes flying out of my mouth, and it's just the way I've always been. But on the other hand, that weakness is my superpower because I also will get out in front of people like yourselves and be willing to talk where other people are afraid to even step up to the bat.
Mhm.
So I don't mind being that guy. But I remember one time teaching my martial arts class, and a little kid said to me straight up in front of everybody, said, "You're fat." And the parent was like, "Oh my God, Sensei, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." No, 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 no. It's okay, because I wasn't mad and I wasn't hurt. I just looked at the parent and said, "You know what? Your child is saying what they see." "Oh no, but you're not really in there trying to, make me feel better." "No, you're not really." Listen. Fact is, a child speaks from a very honest and truthful place. Could you please stop her from doing that? And I don't know, put her in the crate. So I'm sorry. But the child was being honest. The child was being honest. And I wasn't going to be angry at this kid. And I said, "Yeah, it's not a news flash. I need to lose weight." "Yeah, okay." So, but sometimes accepting the truth about yourself, that's back to this truth topic, accepting acknowledgement of the truth and going, this is really what is. Now, if you don't like that truth, what are you willing to do to make it better?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anyone else, please? No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that lying is so much harder than being honest. I never really lie, and just the other day, this dude was supposed to come over my house, and I wasn't really into it at the moment, and then all of a sudden he's in my driveway. So what do I gotta do? This was just literally happened like last week. I ran out the back door, jumped the fence, ran around the alleyway. Like, I mean, that's like a perfect metaphor. Like, lying is so much harder.
I know you had to sweat,
Seriously.
run, and climb. Man,
I feel we've all been there at some point in time.
especially us introverts. I'm not a big fan of, like sometimes I secretly hope people will cancel plans on me just because I don't know. I don't want to go out amongst the masses sometimes. But at the same time, I need people like Michael to make me go do things because it's good for me too.
I got you.
Without people like Michael, I think I'd probably be like Merlin the Hermit, living in a cave up in Pikes Peak somewhere, coming out whenever the sun's up.
You'd still think that he is terrifying and no one wants to be around him, but everybody loves you. Or at least I do.
I just know what I hear. I know what I look like. How many times did people think I'm Hell's Angels, Ellie? I'm like, I don't even like riding motorcycles, dude. I don't even want to be on a motorcycle.
You really do, though. I can't deny it.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's like, but they freak me out, man. I don't want to be on a motorcycle.
I tried it. Not a great idea.
You can do the scooter. Nathan went across country with a scooter.
Like your hubby had to that time?
Yeah. Did they ever tell you did we ever tell you where his scooter after it got stolen ended up?
Probably, but it's been a long time. Remind me.
Colorado.
Denver.
It ended up in Denver. It was stolen here in South Carolina, and it ended up in Denver when they finally found it.
Wait a minute. So he rode that from California all the way to South Carolina, and then somebody stole it and brought it halfway back across the country?
Yes. Yes.
Crazy. That scooter has seen some stuff, man.
That's called a repossession. No, I'm kidding.
That scooter has seen some stuff. And at that time of the year, Colorado, it was not a great time to be riding a scooter. It reminds me of what's the movie Dumb and Dumber, when they were riding the scooter across
Yeah. Okay. So that was the thing, though. It was
icicles forming on the face.
Yep.
It was stolen on April 1st. And when I went to go post up, I actually remember having to go in and being like, "No, I'm not kidding. This is not an April Fool's joke, by the way. It literally was stolen." I thought he was playing a joke on me at first. I looked out.
And I'm like, okay, who moved my bike?
Yeah.
Right. Dude, where's my car? Yeah. Wow.
Eventually you get back over here.
Yeah, it did eventually come back over here, and we tried to tell him we didn't want it. We're like, there's no point in shipping it back here. He gets a call randomly from wherever they were holding it, and he's like, Seriously, y'all brought it back? I told him I didn't want it. There's no
Wow.
point in bringing it from
That's- That's good.
Hey, we auctioned it off to the junkyard that is currently holding it. I'm like, okay. It wasn't worth nothing. And no, when I first got the call from Denver, I'm like, what condition is it in? She's like, it's bad.
Oh,
It's bad. It's driven across the
no.
country 2.5 times. It's bad, dude.
Oh no, they ravaged the scooter. Oh.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
That's some dedication, though, man. To bring that thing all the way back. Jeez. Oh,
But-
my goodness.
But you know, you told, in speaking of the truth, the alternative, when someone lies, the worst part about it is when you lose the sense of trust, right?
Yes.
You lose that sense of trust and you say, look, here's somebody who I feel I could trust. And then if you get to the point where you feel this person wasn't honest, now you have to start doubting and questioning everything they say.
I don't know, Ellie. Tell the truth.
What?
He said, I don't know, Allie. You think he's telling the truth?
Wow. That's horrible.
but not just that, Ross. That in turn corrupts our internal trust with ourselves too. And if we tell stories long enough, we'll start believing them ourselves, even though we knew they weren't a lie. And then again, it's like trying to maintain a lie outwardly. When you try to maintain that inwardly, someone's going to come along and pop that bubble eventually, blow up for you. Everything's going to just go crazy and turn upside down. So the next ethos is integrity. And this really is kind of the ethos of sovereignty and self-governance. It's the ethos that turns that aspiration into embodiment. And going back to bridges, it's that bridge between who you say you are and who you actually are, to kind of build upon that last thing about truth there. Because without integrity, the path that we walk collapses under its own weight. Because you cannot rise higher than the values that you're willing to practice and live by, Michael.
Yeah. When I think about one of the things you say often, it's like when we're in times of stress, we fall to our lowest level of healing, our lowest level of training.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're in a crunch, it's like healing, right? We can understand our patterns, we can understand our triggers, but it's not until you're met with those situations can you truly start doing the work to train your nervous system, to train your mind to handle these situations differently. And integrity is so important because it tells us in these moments to do the best we can and to accept who we are in those moments without judgment.
Yeah.
You know, it's really,
go ahead.
No, I'm just relating to what you're saying. What's really funny is Dan McCann, he's on the line. He's here in the conference with us. And Dan will tell you a story, which is very funny. We went to a gathering. I think it was our second or third gathering we'd been together. And we were rooming in the same room. And when we were just about the first gathering, right? And so when we went to lay down in our respective bunks, he goes, Ross, I really like you. I said, well, Dan, I like you too. He goes, I didn't always like you. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, I have to say that when I first met you, I thought you were kind of a braggart. And I went, what? Why? He goes, you have to admit, your life is kind of really out there. Like, you've done a lot with your life. You've done all this stuff, the martial arts and the famous people and all the stuff that you do in the movies and the He goes, all this stuff. He says, and I kind of thought you were full of baloney. He says, but then after talking to various Jedi, going on the internet and everything, I found out it was all true. Then I felt really bad. I was like, well, I'm glad you got through that. But and that's sometimes now, even now, when I meet people, I consciously dial it back. Like people will talk about stuff and they'll be like, oh well, yeah, I like the martial arts, it's cool. And I'm like, and I try to leave it at that.
It's a hobby of mine.
Yeah,
I dabble occasionally.
And it's just really, really funny. Like, I have to, because I don't want to come across like that. Again, it goes back to that accountability and what am I willing to do to change? So there you are.
I do
Yeah, and the
like
kind of
integrity
what's
as a
that?
concept. I said I do like integrity as a concept. It's one of my favorites out of leadership for anyone that's Army. Uh,
No.
because when you look at it, that is the one that maintains your accountability. But if you don't stand for anything, you're going to fall for everything
That's right.
as it goes. And like, okay, so in one of my books, one of my workbooks for the that follows the Jedi Compass, it's the one on, I think it's duty to all, or it could be the one that more follows the law. I don't remember which one, but it talks about the concept of, sorry, I'm talking. Okay, chotomate, chotomate. Let me grab this pizza out so that Nathan can be like, your pizza's not burning anymore. I don't even know where
Feed
the
that,
so
feed that poor soul. He's
I'm
hungry.
the soul that needs to be fed because it's mine. I don't eat pork. So this one's the turkey pepperoni that he believes is sacrilege. I think Michael agrees with you. He's looking around like, oh, what is this?
But
Don't
finishing
even talk
but,
pineapple with them.
Teach
but,
their
fin-
own.
but sister, finishing your thought, Mrs. ADHD.
Okay, so no, that was Nathan. Anyways, so what I was saying
Yeah.
was, what I
Love
was
under
saying,
pressure, Allie. Love under pressure. You
yeah,
gotta.
right. So what I was saying is that
Even if she's a heretic.
whatever. In one of those books, we talk about the two particular experiments that were done. There's the Stanford prison,
Mhm.
Stanford prison, right?
Yep.
The Stanford prison experiment, and then the other one is what was the name of that one? Milgram's experiment. So Stanford prison's experiment, they basically gave power to these guards and then had people that played the prisoners. And it got very abusive. Later on, when the whole thing kicked off with Abu Ghraib, somebody who was part of that prison experiment actually went to go and try to argue for them. You know, they were being told by their superiors to do this, and that. But in the Army, we don't look at it that way. And then in the Milgram experiment, just to tie this in before I get to in the Army, we don't look at it that way. The Milgram experiment, that's the one where they were given incentive to hurt, to shock somebody. And it was just an actor on the other side that would pretend like they were getting shocked and screaming and all this stuff. And they would continue just pressing the button because.
Wait. They gave them incentive? You mean you're telling me that they needed a copious experimentation process to understand that you get more of what you incentivize?
Well, it wasn't real. So the incentive was more like pressure, and it was kind of, yeah.
If it makes you feel better, the Mouse Utopia experiment shows that we're being cruel and horrible to each other just out of boredom.
Yeah, that's true. So, point is, they kept going, even though they felt morally, with the Milgram experiment, they felt like it was morally reprehensible, but they just kept going because the incentive was this person who's a power over me is putting that pressure. They didn't feel like they could just cut out. In the Army, the way that we look at that, and the reason why even the lowest of the low ended up going to Leavenworth, is because you have to have integrity and personal fortitude to overcome that pressure, overcome the incentive. I'm going to get paid or I'm going to get killed if I don't continue doing this. Doesn't matter what's going on in your head. You have to press through it. You have to overcome it. But what predicates on being able to overcome that is your integrity. If you don't have it, you're never going to be able to overcome the pressure of other people telling you you should do this. And can you do it? Absolutely. I did it. And I was in a detainee facility. I went up higher. I was the whistleblower. over some pork on a plate. And yes, I am eating turkey on a plate. Oh, I can't even do for the pause for effect because I don't have my video.
We're imagining it.
Hold up.
Just blow on it first before you put it in your
Turkey.
mouth.
On a plate. There we go.
So that's the kind of integrity that we're talking about, is to be whole, right? To be able to hold things up, to hold our ideals, our beliefs, our life, our path up, something to support that, something, real things that don't allow us to fracture easily. So it is where our words and our attentions and our principles and our actions all point in the same direction and are all aligned. Not because it's easy, not because it's convenient, but because anything less would fracture us, Michael.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're not able to stand firm in our values and our truth and our ethos, I mean, life has a way of humbling us. So there are certain things that can be overwhelming, but it's the ability to have integrity in those moments that makes us stronger. It is in those moments we are tested and we are tried.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we're perfect every time, but it means we're growing resilience every time.
Right. It's also to refuse to compromise our values for anything else, like comfort or approval. It's that courage to hold to our center, even when everyone else wants us to sway. It's also a discipline. All of these things are a discipline, right? At some level. It's a discipline to do what is right, even if it costs us something.
Yeah.
And going back to responsibility, it's a responsibility to live in such a way that our presence reinforces trust rather than eroding it.
Well, it's through integrity that we're able to. Our integrity is something that is like an energy that we carry outside of ourselves. The more we follow through, the more that we stand by who we are, the more that we gain authority in our lives, authority with our peers. It is through that integrity that we show that we are able to truly show our character.
Right. But I will say that this type of integrity, once internalized and once it becomes a state of being, it produces something more important than those other kinds of any kind of authority or rank or recognition. It creates that spiritual authority within us. It makes us whole. And once you're whole, it's very difficult. If you're a person who is whole, it's very difficult to push them off center or to make them compromise or to get them to stand down when doing the right thing, even at a cost, is what they're going to do. There is a profound power in someone who is the same person behind closed doors than as they are when the world is watching. Now, like all these things, because we're human, we sometimes tilt and we sometimes falter, and that's okay. But we can because if this is a state of being for us, we can come back to center quickly and much easier. The climb to that is hard. I'll give you that. But once you're there, getting back to center, realigning is much easier than it was to get there to begin with. Because, unlike lying, we were talking about lying a minute ago. Unlike lying, integrity is something that cannot be counterfeited. It is either there or it's not. And it's generally pretty easy to see. Someone who can have all the charisma in the world, if they don't have integrity, it will show pretty easily. Because this is a kind of power that's only earned through that alignment and through that hard work.
Well, and I think an important part of this is we talk often on the podcast about social masks. And it's something that we grew up learning to do. It's how we play a part in the circus of life, right? In different situations, we have different masks that just come online. And as you start to cultivate true integrity, especially with yourself, with your values, you begin to start releasing the hold these masks have, because often we don't realize we're wearing them until we see them. And so through integrity, can we truly create a space between these masks and ourselves and show up authentically?
Yeah. Without integrity, no teaching can stand for long. No tradition, no philosophy, no lineage, none of that has any meaning if the ones carrying those teachings and those things are divided within themselves. It is why we constantly reevaluate our teachings, our everything we do, to make sure that we are in alignment, not just with what we think is perfect and right and whatever, but with where truth is, right?
Yeah.
It's because it can sway.
Well, it's one of my favorite things about our teachings. It's a living, breathing thing. It is not something that once written in a book is going to be what is taught through students and students to come. It is something that is organic, that can mold with the understanding and grow with the teaching. The teachings can grow with the students, with the world, with our understanding.
Yeah. 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 So this is really the real work, and probably where it gets kind of tough to put ourselves back together and not pretending that we'll never fall out of alignment, because we will, and we do all the time, all of us.
We're human.
But committing to correcting ourselves, or allowing ourselves to be course corrected the moment we recognize it. As you said, integrity is not perfection, it is presence. It is accountability. It is self-governance. It's the courage to allow ourselves to realign again and again, take that accountability and move ourselves left when we go too far right, move ourselves right, to reorient ourselves back to balance, back to center. And eventually, if you practice it enough, practice, it becomes more natural. It becomes almost a second nature to us. You won't go long. So before we move on to the next ethos, anybody else want to talk about integrity? Anybody? Anyone? The U.S. has proven that this is not true. Can you give me a little more?
Just the statement that people can see integrity or lack of integrity.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it's more that we can feel when we are not having our integrity, and when we are in our integrity, we can feel that, right? That's the only thing we can control about it. And I know, like, for myself, like, part of the reinforcement of maintaining my integrity is just that it feels utterly awful to not stand in my integrity. And it weighs on me, and part because I'm like, if I do something that is against what I should be doing, like, it's like someone's going to find out. It's, like, how can anyone believe me from there? Like, all the things, right? When people find out you weren't being honest and truthful and standing in the place where I want to be, and being the best version of myself. I just hate that sometimes or a lot of times that's not enough, and people don't recognize it because either, I don't know, there's probably quite a few reasons for, like, why people don't recognize it, and probably because so few people are. Like, there's just so little integrity sometimes in the world, in society around us, that it's like, and this may be a me thing with my autism, I can't read it always. So I can't, so it's like people get so used to people not being truthful and having integrity that it's hard to control that. So I just try to view it as an internal thing that I'm being for me, and hopefully that comes across, and I always do my best to have it come across, but I can't control it per se.
Right.
Well, and I think one thing is, as we talked about earlier, is everyone is conditioned by their own understandings, experiences, beliefs, and there is a level of ignorance that comes from all of us. We all have our ignorances. We all have our own, what's the word I'm looking for here? Our own paradigms in which we see the world. And unfortunately, that can cloud our judgment. It's like when we were talking about truth and how truth, one person's truth is not the same as another person's truth in many situations. And it can lead to so much animosity, I guess is a word I could use for this. And I think realistically, when it comes to the presence in which this brings, it is more an energetic charge of standing firm in who we are. With it's the inner locus of control, right? It's not needing the outside world to validate our experience or to validate our authenticity. It is being able to come from a place inside where who we are, I stand firm in who I am, and I am proud to be who I am, and I need nothing outside of myself to tell me this is okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you said it. You guys said it well. It does feel icky once you internalize your integrity and you try to be as whole as you can be. It does feel icky, and it feels icky when other people don't do it.
And sadly, I do think many people aren't awake to this type of world, to true authenticity. I think that many people are conditioned by the society we live in today, where we have things on the TV, we have media everywhere, social media, and there's so much conditioning happening to everyone's unconscious mind that it makes them those social mass, right? They're overly identified with their opinions and beliefs.
Yeah, it's these ideals are very old fashioned. It's very difficult to teach these ideals to the masses, right? We run into this a lot. And it has a lot to do with there are a lot of chameleons out there too, a lot of good ones.
I wanted to throw in there, just kind of exactly what I was thinking about chameleons, and in response to what Jax was saying. Yeah, most of us have a conscience, and most of us don't feel right if we move too far from our own sense of personal integrity. But then you have that whatever percentage of the population it is that is psychopathic, and they don't have those emotions. They don't feel that sense of guilt, and they're often very, very charming and charismatic. So they can be persuasive, and it can be hard to see their deception because they don't feel that sense of guilt.
Yeah, the dark triad, right?
Right.
For you comic book fans out there, I don't know how many of you will remember this or have ever seen it, but there was a speech that Captain America gave Spider-Man, and I think it's a play on something Mark Twain said a long time ago, maybe, but it goes, doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians say, doesn't matter what the mob say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or consequences. When the mob and the presses and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. Now, that's a very cool, very Captain America style speech, right? But when you take that speech in the context of love and truth and connection and integrity and respect for life, it has a whole new meaning. Without getting out into the weeds, I think we all know what we're talking about, especially with the state of the world right now. There's a lot of things that feel very disgusting and gross that are happening that offends our integrity, offends our ethos, it defends whatever consciousness we have. But just because lots of people are doing it doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean that it's should happen, and it's our job to stand up and combat that, even just a show of defense. So anyways, before we get on that, Michael, you're supposed to keep me out of the weeds, bro.
Oh, I was enjoying you being in the weeds. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Next ethos.
You guys can't see this, but I've got Captain America crap all over my office. That was my favorite guy, my favorite superhero. Anyways,
I respect that. I'm a Marvel guy. I respect that. I'm an Iron
Yes.
Man guy, so I get it.
Hey, we could put our differences aside. Tony's
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So connection. This is the ethos of interbeing. And connection is the ethos that helps dissolve the illusion of separation. It's something Michael and I talk about a lot on the podcast, is those times where we feel isolated or alone, even when we're separated from a lot of people, or even when we're surrounded by a lot of people sometimes. But connection, this ethos, it's the reason it's here is because it's here to remind us that we are not isolated beings moving through just this kind of neutral universe. We are all expressions of the force or God or whatever expression you choose, but we are expressions of that. We are expressions of creation, of the light, of the living light. And all of this is woven into this living field of energy that many of us call the force, right? It reminds us that we're not separate from these things. We're not separate from source, or from one another even. Every thought that we have affects our vibration. Every emotion we have, well, I should say every emotion that we embody, whether we're in control or not, affects our presence and how we show up. Every word we speak shapes our relationships in one way or the other. Could be tiny, could be big, but it does affect things. Every action we take ripples outward into the world, out into the universe, touching lives that you will never meet in one small way or the other. This is what we believe. This is why we take the ethos of connection very seriously, because what it does is it asks us to stop and pause and think about the far-reaching consequences of the things we do, think, and say. It holds us accountable to ourselves. It goes back to the book, The Four Agreements, right, Michael?
Yeah.
Being impeccable with our word, be impeccable with our actions, with everything that we have power over.
I often look at life as a tapestry. And I remember being young and having this thought of, you could be having a conversation with someone and it takes that one little kid overhearing some talk of nobility that makes him aspire to be a hero and later saves multiple lives. It's that ripple effect is so huge because every step, every word, every action, everything has cause and effect. And when we look at it like that, we realize that no day is the same. No action is minute. There is so much that happens through our daily lives that leaves these impacts, these ripples that changes lives. And again, you can't even fathom how much of a ripple it has. That's one of the reasons I love doing the podcast. I know it could just take that one person listening to that one episode that got that one message that changed their lives forever and in turn changed 1,000 others. And so much in life, the things we do have that impact.
Nothing we do is inconsequential. Nothing. I know that sounds really heavy. Like I'm just like, here, it's all your problem now. It's not quite what we're saying. What we're saying is be careful what we do and what we think and what we say, because it will affect others. Every single one of you listening to this, either live or later on, I want you to understand something very important. Whether you believe it or not, you have influence over others. It could be small influence or big influence. It doesn't have to be people that you're raising or that you live with or that you're related to. You have influence. You do. You have sort of this power over how people make decisions sometimes. And you must be responsible with that. You are a participant in a much larger symphony. I can't fathom how far this goes, but I know that everything I do has its consequences. good and bad, or indifferent too. Sometimes the ripples hit people and they just don't know, or it doesn't affect them. But even if there's a small chance that something I say and something I do can affect lots of people negatively, then I must pause and I must say to myself, is there another way? Right? Is there another way? Really, to understand this level of connection is to understand our greater responsibility. And again, not as a heavy burden of obligation, but think of it as a deep honor of recognizing that your life is part of something vast and sacred beyond our comprehension. Connection, this ethos, helps us dissolve this more egocentric behavior, ego-centered behavior, Michael.
Yeah. Well, I would even say that when we deal with people who we are at odds with, when we deal with challenges in life, it is, as I brought up earlier, the best way to make an impact in the world is not through words or even actions, depending. It is about the role you set. It is about the role, being a role model. It is about living in your integrity. And when we do this, the way we break down walls is through authenticity. And the ripple effects that has when someone sees you stand in your integrity and they are strongly adverse to what you stand for. You plant a seed every time, you water that seed every time. That is how true change comes about for anyone, especially those who are lost in the world. Through enough of these seeds being planted, enough water being sown, we're able to help people have that moment whenever that time may come where they can all of a sudden evaluate life through the seed that was planted.
And we can plant seeds that are good and bad. We talked about this in the harvest show.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to eat that humble pie at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's very, very nutritious. Humble pie is very nutritious, but it doesn't taste good at all. But when we see ourselves as separate from all things, and I'm not talking about seeing ourselves as individuals, because we are individuals tied to this greater collective. But when we see ourselves as separate, cut off, removed from, this is when our ego becomes empowered and it becomes more self-absorbed. And it just fixates on our own needs and our own narratives and our own fears and desires and all these things that we talk about. But then we start to compete and defend or dominate when we don't necessarily have to all the time. There are times where we do have to defend and survive. Sometimes that's really where some of our problems come from. And again, these old traumas, they come from times where it wasn't even our fault, but we have to deal with them. But we don't have to survive forever. We can make these choices where we create power within us, right? When we allow ourselves to understand that we recognize this web of existence, this web of the force. When we reconcile, and this is the trick, when we can start to recognize ourselves in others and others in ourselves, that's when that ego starts losing that grip, and we start to find these different ways to align with that higher self. And this is why, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. You guys got 2 opinions today out of me.
Rare.
In my opinion, community is not optional for me on this Jedi path. I think it's essential, because before today's episode, we did 87 episodes without all these awesome dudes in front of us, people in front of us today. And we could do it without them, but it's so much better with them with us today, helping us do this. Community empowers us beyond places that we couldn't go alone forever, right? Like we can go so far by ourselves, but with community, that amplifies exponentially.
Well, connection is the most powerful thing in the world. I mean, we talked about the ethos of love before and how it's learning to love each and every person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through connection, the people we have in our sphere, people outside of it, there is nothing more powerful than those who are gathered in heart and spirit. And there's nothing that can help us grow more than others who also share those ideals. And who don't share ideals.
Right.
There is nothing I love more than being around those who do not agree with me, because there's either something to learn or something to grow with. And through these conversations we have, we can become more whole as a person, and in mind, body, and spirit. Because when we limit ourselves to such a narrowing perspective of ourselves in isolation is the worst thing. We talked about earlier how the unconscious mind can be our worst enemy, especially in isolation, because it can create these paradigms where we believe reality is its own thing. But through communion, through connection, we can gain a greater understanding of the world around us, of the force, the universe, of everything,
Of ourselves.
Especially ourselves. We are the worst to analyze ourselves.
Right. But even groups can be isolated, and then you create these echo chambers that are no good for us either. Because we don't grow completely in isolation. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, again, my opinion, to evolve and grow standing alone all the time. We refine each other, we sharpen each other, we stabilize each other when we need to, we uplift each other when we need to. Sometimes we disagree, and then we learn something together. Ignorance is not bad because it's the first step to wisdom. But if you're not willing to put your ignorance out there, you're not going to gain wisdom. You're not going to learn anything. You're just going to be stuck where you're at.
Have the mind of a child, right?
That's right. And these types of states might feel safe, like being away and being alone. And I'm not talking about solitude. Solitude is a very, very powerful practice that we all go through because we have to do that introspection. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about just straight up isolation. Because if we're in a good and strong community, it challenges us in ways that grow us. Like holding up a mirror for us, right? To see if we have integrity, if we align both inside and out. Having friends. I have friends that are here right now that I've known for long time. Almost as long as my youngest daughter is. And believe me, we'll tell each other all the time, hey, what are you talking about? That's not what you said. Or we hold each other accountable too. So, but connection is the ethos that turns individual practice into a shared evolution, right? And this ethos is most powerful when we feel truly connected, when we know that we're connected, when we don't seek power over others, when we seek harmony with others, especially those we disagree with, especially those. Anyone want to jump in here on the ethos of connection? Check the chat.
I find that with lack of connection, I feel like I'm dying. I mean, I really just can't stand isolation. Without having the connection to people that I surround myself with, regardless if it's the Jedi community, martial arts community, or whatever. I can't stand disconnection. As a matter of fact, I very often have a tough time disconnecting from somebody who I should, let go of. I don't get rid of friends that easily, but there are some times where you have to make that decision, and you have to have the discernment to let go of somebody who would be a toxic relationship. But overall, a connection is a very important thing to me.
Well, and I mean, we talked about earlier about boundaries, right? It's about boundaries aren't for other people, they're for us. And for me, it's not necessarily you cross that boundary once you're out of my life, but it is being able to establish understanding when someone's constantly coming against our stated boundaries, that what the place they have in our lives. And that can be a very difficult thing. I know I have a few people in my life I've had to put some space in between just because of the path they took in life. And it can be heart-wrenching. One of the things Justin is fond of saying is that as we take this journey, there's 1,000 heartbreaks that happen, because it's learning that all we can do is be an example. We can't change anyone. There's this concept he talks about called the law of confusion, and I love this because the law of confusion states that you can tell someone the utmost truth, exactly what they need to hear to get their life in the right place. But until they're willing to hear it themselves, when they're willing to actually soak in that information, and often when it comes to this with people, it usually happens once they hit that point on their own. But the law of confusion states that we can't teach people until they are willing to learn the lesson.
Yeah. Well, you got it right.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
That's something that used to drive Michael absolutely crazy. He was showing up as he's the perfect student. He was eager and willing and curious. Ross, you know what I'm talking about. Tried to empty his cup as much as he could, but he did not like it when I didn't just give him the answers to everything.
Yeah, no, that very often you have to try to get them to find their way down that path, and you can give them clues, you can point them in the right direction, but simply spouting out all the information and telling them things, the lesson is lost because they're not really experiencing it. They're able to repeat it, they're able to regurgitate it, but are they really experiencing it? And I definitely understand what you mean.
Yep.
They're not
100%.
able to internalize it until they get to that point.
That's right.
It was part of that opinion part where Justin doesn't have opinions. It'd be something's going on in life, and it's like, man, I'm overwhelmed by this. I want to take care of all this stuff. Like, what do you think I should do? He's like, you'll figure it out. Thanks. Thanks.
So I think connection's very valuable. And one of the things that I'm so grateful for is that it's a double-edged sword, and I'm sure people are gonna be like, yeah, but the internet's also, but we're all here because of the internet. So I am thankful for the internet because after I got out of Okinawa specifically, it's only people that I met through the internet that I was really able to connect with anymore because I was so far away from like the people I grew up with. And most of the people I just happen to encounter are not the kind of people that are going to want to have these in-depth conversations. In fact, so there's somebody here that I knew from one of the online communities. She and I talk ever so often. It's actually her birthday. I sent her a message earlier. But she invited this woman out to go hang out with us. And she was like, yeah, I have difficulty having conversations with her. The only thing we can really connect with is our hiking. And I was like, okay. She said, but she's super Christian. And, maybe she's willing, maybe you guys can connect on that. And, we can have that. And she and I started talking about all kinds of topics. And by she and I mean me and my original friend. And this girl's like, oh God, why do you even talk about that stuff? Like, that's kind of scaring me. That's not Christian. And we're talking about how people believe these things. Oh no, why would you even entertain that? I'm like, we're not even saying that we believe them. We're just talking about people who do believe them and how it affects their lives. No, that's inviting demonic stuff. Like, you have difficulty finding people that you can talk with unless you have the connection on, like, I have the connection on the internet. So you can try to find topics that you can relate to, but it doesn't necessarily get there. And I have people that I talk over their heads at work when I'm talking about certain topics, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds like you love it. That's great. Let me put the thumbs up so you guys like, that's great. And then they go and they talk about something, and I'm like, oh God, I do not want to hear this. And I'm just like, nope, not my topic. But I'm going to be very nice about it and just nod. Just like you nod for me.
Michael nods at everything I said. I'm not sure he's even listening. half the time.
Well, I think when it comes down to it with people, it's curiosity, right? Unfortunately, most people are starved of curiosity. Though I do find it interesting when I meet people who have interests that are so outside of the realm of myself, because with curiosity, I can gain insight to things that I would have never considered before.
Yeah.
But I love people. I will go meet people anywhere and everywhere I go because people fascinate me. How do you operate?
Jack said in the chat, I do fine with far less connection than a lot of people, but I also don't notice when I'm missing connection until it gets real bad. I understand that 100%. It's like lack of connection is quiet. It has to get loud for me to notice how it impacts me. I don't know if I'm on, if I have some kind of problem with this, but if people are out of sight for too long, I will almost literally forget they exist until I see them again. But when I see them again, I just like, it was like yesterday. I pick up exactly where we were. Somehow I remember what we were talking about last, but I understand that. That's why Michael has to drag me outside, because I will get lost. I will get lost in this so easily.
Do you have ADHD?
I probably do. Yeah, but I'm old.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us that stuff back then.
No. I mean, they don't, but object impermanence is very real and very applicable to human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that's also why a lot of people that have that can do that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there that are like, that just makes you a horrible friend.
Right.
No, I don't mean to forget that you exist. Like, it's right. I actually very much want you to always exist, yes. But it's easy to lose track of that. And I suspect I have a theory that the people we can do that with, the energetic connection is still there. Mm-hmm. And so if we lose that, then we'll feel that disconnect. But as long as the energetic connection is there between the people and their neurology and all that, is fine with interacting like that, it works really well. And you pick up stuff anytime you want. And then, but I think maybe the more energetically tuned in we are, the easier it is to let people be.
Right.
And us introverts can just chill.
Right.
And then, come back to the people and experience that connection in a different way. But if that connection truly gets really strained, that's when it starts to get really loud. And it's like, wow, I'm feeling really lonely, or something is happening. What is wrong? And it, when it's in the house, it's just, oh, we're not communicating well. Stuff like that is like, that's when the lack of connection starts to make itself known, because it's like, it feels really subtle for me. And there's probably other people where it's not subtle at all. But just something that I was observing as you guys were talking.
No, that's spot on for me too. That's why I say that community is so important for me, because I have to make myself, it's how I grow. It's how I grow. I can only grow so much in my own echo chamber, my own isolation, so as painful as it is sometimes, I make myself get out there with with everyone else. And because like when I go grocery shop, when I do anything, I'm out there. I'll go outside all the time, but I'm usually just like mission essential only. Here. I get it. I go back home, and then I go back to more writing and podcasting and things like that. So, but you bring up a really good point, and it's something I usually say at the beginning of these things. This episode, these teachings, all this stuff, all my interaction with you guys today, and all the interaction I have with the comments and stuff later, this stuff is just as much for me as it is for anyone else. It's just me like reminding myself, hey, bro, you need to get out there and connect. Hey, bro, you got to make sure you're truthful and have integrity and make sure you love. Because us human beings, we get stuck in things sometimes, even the best of us. So.
Well, and again, psychologically, we are prone to go to the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And when we're acting from a place of introversion, or we're introverted, it's easy to fall out of connection in the sense of, like you said, where it's just, I'm minding my life. The connection is still there and they're distant. But when we do that for prolonged periods of time, connection becomes more and more uncomfortable, right?
Right.
It ends up being almost a chore to see people, to handle people, especially when we get too far into that isolation. And so it's good to sort of monitor within ourselves, how have I been in my social interactions? How have I been letting my social battery develop some charge? Because the longer we go without it, the less bandwidth we have to interact with people. And so I know for me, I know I talk about loving people and being a social extrovert. I was one of the most introverted people to the point in high school. I was told that I was probably going to be sent to a home because I lacked social skills. I was very reclusive in school. I would mumble. I would avoid eye contact with anyone and everyone I met. It was really bad. And so when I was told that I might be sent to a home my junior year, I was like, I can't keep going about life like this. And so I started going to the mall and I would just ask 10 random people, what's the time? That would be my challenge for myself. And I did that every day for like a month. Then it started being, what's the weather like? Start having small conversations. And slowly that grew and grew. And I noticed that I'm really good with people. Again, I love socializing. I love people. But when I fall into, like, when I went through my dark night of the soul per se, I became very introverted again. And building that momentum up again was just like it was in high school, where it was like, now I got to force myself to socialize. Now I got to force myself to be around people. But it got easier the more I did it and the more I pushed myself to do so. And I feel roughly back up to scratch, but it's just something to be mindful of, especially when we lean more introverted, is that we got to have integrity with how much are we practicing this, or how much are we letting comfort take us away from our social interactions and our connection.
Yeah. Before Ali turns the lights off on us and kicks us out, we got about 5 minutes, I think, before the top of the hour. The last ethos we have, of course, is respect for life. The way we see respect for life is probably the same way all of you guys do. All of you guys in your different Jedi traditions teach and practice. It's really no different for us. We respect the inherent greatness of all things under creation. Under creation. And whatever that means for you, that's how we see it. If it was created, if it's living, if it has atoms and molecules, we understand and believe that there is inherent greatness in that. Now, we usually tend to bring that down more towards a human level so that we can interact respectfully with dignity to every person we come across, whether we agree with them or not. We must always remember, first and foremost, that they are a living being. We must respect that. So that's the short version. But before we go, something I tend to do when I can remember is around gathering time. I like to make sure that everybody has access to the book about axioms. And so at midnight tonight, the Kindle version of that book, I'll drop a link in the chat here. Ali, if you could put a link somewhere else for me. Oh, why won't it let me? So people can find their way to it. It'd be free of charge. You just have to go to Kindle and download it. I would love to send you all paperback copies, but I'm not rich, so maybe someday. Maybe
Well,
we'll put it on
if more
Michael's
of us
credit
bought your
card.
book, you would be rich.
Right.
So,
true.
and I'll get that up there, but I do want to say something.
Yeah.
On that last one that you have
Yeah.
an axiom, and I was like, let me go find this before they cut us off.
I know the one you're gonna say. Go ahead.
That which existed before the universe was great is great. The universe is great, creation is great, and people are great. So this was something I wrote when I posted this little picture of my character reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
It might be hard to consider the idea that people are great, especially if you've witnessed a lot in your life that states otherwise. But if you take time to really understand humanity and our ability to transform and weather the storms that come our way, you can begin to look at each individual person as worthy of life. And that in all of that, people are great. So if you want to explore this, definitely pick up Axioms of Ashla. So the Light Within: A Journey Through the Axioms of Ashla by Justin.
Yes, and we'll make that free for everyone. So thank you guys so much for letting us hang out with you. You guys took us to the longest show we've done. It was like 2 hours and we loved it. I had so much fun.
Yeah, this was great.
It's my favorite show so far. And this would be show number what, Michael? 88?
Yeah.
Favorite one. I got to see some faces and hear some voices I haven't interacted with in a really long time.
Appreciate the participation.
Yes, I
great
loved
having conversations.
Yeah. But thank you guys so much, and we really appreciate it. And as we always like to sign off with love and gratitude, ad lucem.
Ad lucem.